Good morning, good evening, good night, whenever you guys are watching this channel. First, subscribe. Today is December the 22nd, 2021. It's a Wednesday, so it's 3 days before Christmas. And I said I wasn't going to make another video until after Christmas, but when I woke up this morning, this video popped up. And I want to share it with you because I never heard of this rep. It's a young guy, he's 26 years old, from North Carolina, and is awesome. I know people like this, they don't share it a lot here on YouTube or other social media sites. I don't know, this stuff is filtered and they don't want nobody to hear this or hear from people like this, but this caught my attention, especially listen to this right here, what he told Nancy Pelosi.
The gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, I seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, you are not God. Your will does not bend the forest or shake the mountains. And let me assure you, your will does not bow the knee of millions of my countrymen who refuse to heed your callous command. To threaten arrest on others for their own personal medical decisions is nothing short of a medical apartheid, and I will not let it stand. For if I am to cowardly bend the knee here like those on the left wish, then what is to stop you all from taking your tyranny to the rest of this country that I love? How dare anyone in this institution attempt to dictate to the patriots of my staff how they may live their lives? For one to think that because they have the title honorable attached to their name means that they may dictate what others may say and think repulses me. What makes this nation special is that in this free land, the people are the royalty. So arrest us if you will, but I will not cower and I will not bend. Madam Speaker, you have come to take away our liberties. But Madam Speaker, in this country, you are outnumbered. With that, I yield back.
I said, who is this young man? Where did he come from? You know, I wanted to hear his story. How did he get in a wheelchair? So I was just curious. And so I did some research and I found this video. So I'm going to share it with you guys. We could watch it together. You could fast forward through it if you would like, because I wanted to hear everything he had to say. So I'll sit back and watch this. If you would like, you can watch it with me. So here we go.
I believe God prepares us for the battles that we're going to face. I believe God never calls us to something that we can't handle. Actually, I will go back. I do believe God sometimes calls us to things that we cannot handle, because we can't handle them without Him. So 7.5 years ago, I was in a terrible car accident. I was 18 years old. I had the best family in the world. I still have the best family in the world. I was just a good old Southern mama's boy. I loved everything. I loved hunting. I loved being athletic. I had the whole world at my fingertips. I was about to graduate high school. Everything I ever wanted to accomplish was coming true, and I was just so thankful for the life I had. I had a charmed childhood. But then I was on spring break with one of my best friends, and I took a step into a car to head back home. I called my mom. We were going to be back for lasagna. It was going to be great. And we're heading back home, and I took a nap in the passenger seat. And when I fell asleep in that passenger seat, little did I know that when I stepped into that car, it would be the last step I ever took. Because the next thing I know, I woke up in a hospital. We were going about 70 miles an hour in a construction zone. We ran headlong into a concrete barricade. The fuel line was exposed from the friction. The car caught on fire. I was incredibly injured. My T12 vertebrae had a burst fracture. My kidney was ripped off. My diaphragm ruptured. I had a traumatic brain injury. I had third-degree burns all over my legs. And I woke up, and I had been this athletic guy who had the whole world at my fingertips, but the next thing I knew, I couldn't even move. I couldn't even speak. My diaphragm was ruptured. I could barely think. And when I was going through that, after I started to come out of the ICU, I was there for several months. I went to a rehab center in Atlanta, incredible people, and I started working on recovering and trying to figure out what my life was going to be like. I then had some people come to me and they started talking to me about, hey, well, let's try and figure out how you can still do some of the activities that you'd want to do. I mean, and they started saying, well, when you go hunting, you'll need a friend. You can't go climb up in a tree anymore. And if you go kayaking, there's the disability advice you can use. And they started explaining all these things, which are incredible improvements on the life of people in wheelchairs, assisted devices that I could use to live a somewhat normal life. But at that moment, I realized aside from a miracle happening, I was most likely going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And at that moment, I considered, man, what is the point of going on? I felt worthless. I was thankful that I was in a position in that hospital to be able to speak into the lives of my comrades, the people who were in, wow, I said comrades, I sound like a socialist. But my fellow men and women who were in wheelchairs, people who I was able to speak into their life because I knew what they were going through. And so I was thankful for that opportunity. But as I came out of the rehabilitation hospital, I started going back to my normal life. I started wondering, man, how am I going to live? And everything that was good that happened in my life, I always think in the back of my mind, yeah, this is fun, but imagine how much more fun if I was doing the same thing and I could walk. I wasn't in any pain. And I had complete independence. And so I will tell you, I was living as somewhat of a shell of myself. And I remember I had a very profound statement told to me by really my family. They just really made it clear that I was basically living a shell of a life. And that this is no way to live, and I needed to make a decision of what I was going to do moving forward. And I'll tell you, I don't think this was their intention, but I genuinely started thinking about, man, well, should I even continue? Should I even start moving forward? And I made a T-graph, and it had the pros and cons on one side. And this is literally, and I know this sounds gruesome and dark, but it was if I should stay alive, if I should continue fighting and going through life as hard as it is, And once I recovered and gained my independence back, would life really be fulfilling enough to be worth the pain I'm going through now? So I started making that T-graph going down both sides. It was basically evenly matched. It took several hours and days of me going through it. But the very last thing that tipped the scales for me is the fact that I still had the opportunity to make a difference. My mind was starting to recover. I could speak again. And as I started going through that moment, I realized, looking out into the world and seeing things, I started gaining a lot of independence back. I started moving forward through life. Everything was going great. And yeah, my life is right where I wanted to be. I just started a real estate investment firm. I had just gotten engaged, me and my fiance. I just got married 8 weeks ago, by the way. It's been... And everyone keeps saying marriage is hard, but so far it's only been a honeymoon. It's very easy. But so I'm talking it's a very normal conversation when you get engaged. And I was talking to my now wife. And we were talking about how many kids do we want to have? When do we want to have them? Do we want to homeschool? Do we want to send them to public school? Although we would never do that. And we're just having this very normal conversation. And then later that evening, I was out with my dog and I was sitting there. I was thinking, man, what would it be like to raise children in this kind of a culture? When they are being politicized from the time they come out of the womb, when they have to make a decision of if they feel like just as Marco Rubio was talking about, if they're an oppressor or if they're a victim, when they're trying to force critical race theory upon them, that tells them, and let me tell you just a quick side thing, when we say we're against critical race theory, it's not enough just to say the 3 words. We need to tell people that critical race theory is wrong because it teaches people to be a victim and not a victor. And I will tell you, if I had believed that kind of logic when I went through my car accident, was coming through it, and decided that the circumstances that I had no control over and was thrust into that was going to define the rest of my life, I wouldn't be here anymore. But I was raised in a family where you were taught that your resilience means everything. How you respond to what happens to you means everything. And so when I started thinking about what was going on in the world, I realized, you know what, I am no longer going to be one of these people who just sit on the sideline and say, oh, well, culture's not like it used to be. We got to fix things. I decided I was going to get in the fight. And at 24 years old, I prayed about it. My congressman went to be the chief of staff in the White House, and so I had this incredible opportunity to run for Congress in my district. And I started looking at the age requirements, and I said, wow, well, I'll turn 25 right before the election, so that works out. And so I started thinking about it. And then I'll tell you, I prayed about it very quickly. I had to make a decision rather rapidly. And I knew that God was calling me to something. And I realized that we had an opportunity to take this country back. Because I'll tell you, the reason why so many people in my generation, I see some young people over here, the reason why so many people in our generation believe that they can't be a conservative or they need to be some form of a socialist or something, is because they've never seen conservatism presented to them by someone in their generation. Every single person they see in the news or anything that's in their generation is some kind of far-left socialist who believes in virtue signaling. But when I went through that car accident, when I was coming through it, I hearkened back to something we talk about all the time. And I was trying to make that decision to stay alive. I thought about what Mordecai said to Esther when she was to be married to King Xerxes. He said, perhaps you were born for such a time as this. And so when I look at it, everyone in here, I'm sure that all of us are saying that trite term, saying, oh, well, culture's not like what it used to be. And our country's not as great as it once was, as when the greatest generation was alive, when we defeated fascism, when we freed the slaves, when we cracked the codes, when we scaled the cliffs, when we defeated freedom all over the world. Our country's not as great as it was then. But my friends, when we start thinking about that we have to go up against this coronavirus nonsense, when we have to go up against Antifa, Black Lives Matter riots, when we have to go against millions of dollars being spent against our very beliefs, when we have to go against all of this and you realize, man, why is the world so hard? Why is it so difficult? I think that we should all be honored that God trusts each and every single one of us enough to stand up and fight against this. Because my friends, what's coming after us, it was coming after our next generation. They are trying to destroy our country. And when we have so many people that want to just sit on the sidelines and say that we're not going to get involved, that we're not going to take the bull by the horns and take the fight to them, we are just capitulating. We are people who are wanting to sit down. When we have pastors in our churches and pulpits who are saying that they care more about tax-exempt status than they care about being a salt and light on this earth, I think we have a problem in the Christian church. And so when I see everybody in this room, when I see all of you here, I realize that you all believe what Mordecai said to his cousin Esther, that perhaps we were all born for such a time as this, that perhaps God put us on this earth to fight against socialism, to fight against the evils of this earth, to globalism, to fight for the next generation. And so I give you this charge. God has trusted you with this battle. All that we must do is go out and fight it.
I think this was an awesome speech, and like I said, I may go out and do some Christmas shopping. I don't do shopping. I hate shopping. Most men hate shopping. I don't even go shopping with my wife. She'll be out all day. She already out this morning. She left a couple of hours ago. She'll be out probably another 6 hours. Then she'll go out tomorrow, the day before Christmas. I'm not going. I'll have to pull out my golf clubs and probably go hit a few golf balls. I haven't been on the golf course in probably 2 years now, so I think I'm gonna get back into it. But anyway, thanks for watching and subscribe to my channel. You only live once, and enjoy your life. Thank you and have a great day.